Excellent. All right. So thanks everybody for joining us here. So we have Scott Dickens from Form Goggles here. Great representative of the brand, but also former Olympian here for those that aren't familiar with him. So thanks again for joining us, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Colin. I'm really excited to talk to everyone today about form, how it can be utilized in your training, and also just at the end of the day, make swimming a lot more fun than staring at a black line, similar to how you're using data and the other two disciplines when it comes to running, as well as cycling, outdoors as well as indoors. So kind of just looking at the full scope and looking at form, how bring that information when you need it the most, which is in the moment versus after. Yeah, but I got a kind of presentation, kind of really peels back the onion around swim education, relates it to kind of metrics and the way kind of training is done in triathlon for, 3 disciplines, and then how specifically that kind of relates to using real-time data for swimming, and then showing some visuals of how the form goggles can be useful to hone in on where there are areas for opportunity, and also kind of get into a bit of like a full overview of the full swim platform of form. It's not just the goggles, it's the app and then the data that we record and also push out to third parties. But there's a lot in there, and it's like that's where we see ourselves now, as opposed to when we first launched purely a goggles with a heads-up display. Now we're that full, I would say, integrated swim platform that is really changing how you look at how to train for swimming and how to digest the data to find areas for opportunity. I think you might have to make me host for me.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah, let's do that here. All right, try again now.
Yeah. Let's do this. Allow Zoom to share your screen. Open system. Sorry, I got to open system preferences. Long story short, and my computer completely went black on me, and did the old I couldn't access it for 72 hours. Had to essentially reformat it and erase it. And
gotta love it.
All right. Can you guys see what I'm looking at now?
We sure can. Looks good.
Perfect. What I'm going to do is go full screen slideshow. Okay. Looks like we're running. So yeah, Form, we are a swim technology company that makes a pair of goggles with a built-in heads-up display, true augmented reality technology, fancy term for a heads-up display that is non-obstructive. You guys have ever been in a car that has a windshield that has the speedometer in the windshield, and you see it when you want to see it, but kind of look right past it? Same technology, and even same technology is used in funny enough, fighter jet pilot their helmets. But that's just way too technical. So let's kind of get into it. So with Form, we have 2 simple things we want to do. We want to help you become a better swimmer, but also we want to make swimming, love swimming more, because swimming can be lonely, it can be boring, and it can be difficult to want to go to the pool and see incremental improvements, because it's a very technical sport that takes a lifetime to master, and even then you probably won't master it. I've been swimming my whole life, and I still struggle with the nuances of technique and how difficult the resistance of the water makes the sport. So Form really brings that awareness to you in real time, so you can kind of see those areas of opportunity versus relying on data and metrics that you really are looking at after the fact and may not understand where you have those slight areas for opportunity, such as consistency in your pace and your efficiency. So when you look at the sport of triathlon, you've got that real-time data when you need it. I'm sure your marathon would have been a little bit harder to pace, Colin, if you didn't have your watch, and you could have gone out guns a-blazing and completely died if you weren't holding your targeted pace. Our data allows us to hold ourselves accountable based on the strategy or prescription of our workout from our coach. The same can be said for biking. You know, you got your power meters outdoors, you got power meters inside with your smart bike trainers and your computer or your Zwift platform to tell you how you're doing in real time so that you can stay the course, whether you're on erg mode or whether you're trying to, you know, follow a specific workout out of erg mode. But you have key metrics that guide you along the way to be able to control your power, your effort level, and stay in the right zone, such as RPM. If your RPM was all over the place, you could probably get a better understanding of what was going on because you can see that data in real time. It might be an inefficiency in your pedal cycle. So by seeing it, you can make micro adjustments in real time and adjust that and adapt your feel. Well, in swimming, we're left doing what we see most of the time on the left. You're stopped at the wall and you're looking at a watch or a pace clock and looking at specific metrics, probably not even that specific to swimming, such as just pace per 100, which is an average. So there's huge areas of opportunity to help improve your consistency and awareness in the pool. And that comes with knowing what to look at and how to interpret it. Often, most triathletes don't come from a swimming background like myself, and it is often the hardest discipline to, you know, train for. So how can we leverage real-time data to almost heighten your awareness and feel to find the areas where you can see the biggest gains? And what you often find is most triathletes are inconsistent in their pace. They might have a consistent average pace, which is pace per 100, and they might see that from 100 to 100 or 200, 200, 400, 400, whatever the repeat distance you're doing. But if you look at the length over length splits, that's where you're going to see the most, I would say, variability. And I have some examples earlier on from swimmers that tried form for the very first time, and then those that have been training with form over time, and how that has helped stabilize their pace as well as their stroke rates and stroke counts. So this is a quick video I want to share from Santera Tech. You guys might know the names of Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav Eden, as well as Olaf, their coach, and we're a partner of Santera Tech. But it's just really kind of getting into a quick talk track of why we need real-time data in swimming and why it can be so helpful.
You have no feedback before you're done with your interval. So when you come back at the deck, then the coach gives you some feedback, but it's already too late. We need basically to provide our athletes with biofeedback as they're swimming. So when you're swimming, I want you to be able to see how efficient you are in the water. And by giving you, for example, speed in real time back to you, giving you stroke rate, for example. So one thing that we very often see when an athlete starts to fatigue is that you are increasing for the same speed, the stroke rate starts to increase. And when you can have this kind of feedback straight back in the goggles here, in a HUD-up display, that means that you can become more conscious about this and focus on this and trying to now target your efficiency. You have no feedback before.
There we go. All right. It's a great, simple kind of showcase of how the goggles can be used to help you increase your efficiency, as Olaf mentions. So we have key metrics similar to you would expect from a bike. RPM is very, very important for controlling your effort distribution and your power. And our goggles are the only goggles out there that have a true heads-up display that is non-obstructive, that you can see through, and that provide that information in real time. And one of our key metrics, that is our newest metric, is our real-time stroke rate. And real-time stroke rate is the cadence of your arms. So it's very similar to RPM. So if you have a stroke rate that is fluctuating all the time, well, then your probably pace is fluctuating as well. So if you think about your pace is how fast you're going, but your stroke rate is how you can control that and keep it consistent. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but that's really, you know, where we look at form is we're some training platform powered by our smart goggles and see-through display. And why form as it relates to triathlon? Well, you get the data in real time, you train with that data in the two other disciplines, but why not swimming? So we're helping solve essentially the problem as it relates to the sport and the three disciplines. And then what this does is help eliminate the guesswork and helps you increase your awareness to teach you versus you in the moment. We have guided workouts now. They're pretty wild. I don't think I can swim or work out any other way now. I'm used to swimming in a squad as a team when I grew up, and swimming on your own, I'll be the first to say I don't like it. It's boring, and staring at a black line is like thoughts wander. I don't push myself nearly as hard. I might cut some meters out here and there because, you know, I don't really want to do some of the extra warm up or extra warm down. But when you have the workout in the goggles, seamlessly walking you through set by set, interval by interval, and giving you all the cues you need to stay in the moment and stay accountable, it just flies by. It's just all you got to do is, you don't have to worry about taking your soggy piece of paper or a plastic bag and putting on a kickboard, putting on the block. It's just there, and it knows when you're swimming, when you're resting, what stroke type you're doing, and it counts those intervals for you and displays the next set all at once. There's no button pressing. It's just like you swim, form takes care of the rest. And what does that do? It just makes it more motivating and joyful, and increases your accuracy and awareness of what you're doing in the moment. So what makes us unique? We have highly accurate swim tracker. I would go as far as saying the most accurate swim tracker on the market. Watches collect great data, but when you look at swim data and watches, you're going to have inconsistencies either on the distance or the time because you have to lap and press the buttons. We use machine learning and automation, so we know exactly when you're swimming, when you're resting, and the sensor's on your head, so it's much more consistent than having a sensor on one wrist. We have in-depth analysis in the app. We have workouts, plans, not for you guys. You have great coaches and plans, but we also have a workout builder where you can take those workouts and plans and load them into the app and then the goggles. Easy to use app where we have analysis, the feed, you can follow other swimmers, you can look at your own swims, you can customize what you want to see in the goggles, similar to what you do with data fields on a watch. And then you have your profile where you can set your goals, link out your external services like Training Peaks, Strava, Today's Plan, Final Surge. So all the data is pushed out and waiting in those platforms as you need it. And then the patented see-through display, which is really unique. If you've ever tried Form and you've like put them on and then got in the pool, it's a completely different experience. It's a projection. So when you're in the pool, the display actually like projects outwards about 5 feet in front of you. It's just floating there with you in real time. It's kind of wild. The key is to like kind of look past it. And once you do that, it's like, whoa, I can focus in on it when I need it and focus out when I don't need it. This is just a really busy slide, but it just shows you like kind of the breadth of the goggles and app. So we have a huge battery life, 16 hours. That's actual swim time. I charge my goggles probably once a month to the point where I often forget. Luckily, they charge about just over an hour, and even a couple, 10 minutes would give you plenty of hours of swim time. You can use these goggles in the pool. You can use them in the open water, and you can use them in swim spots. And the benefit of that is I mentioned real-time stroke rate. Real-time stroke rate is such a fantastic metric, similar to RPM, like I said, but you can get that in the pool and in open water. And often what people don't realize is that your open water stroke rate is going to be quite lower based on not having the rest and walls. Even if you're swimming continuously, you're going to get brief moments of rest in your arms when you do a turn, and you're going to probably be wearing a wetsuit, and that's added resistance. So it's going to be harder to swim at a targeted stroke rate in open water, so which lends that you probably need to target a higher stroke rate in the pool. We have 7 different nose bridge sizes, adjustable straps, amazing case to protect your goggles. We have a 2-year warranty on the goggles. Stand by that, a 30-day money-back guarantee. And we have a whole lot of metrics you can choose from to see. You can see here an example of how the goggles work when you're not in a workout mode. So guided workout mode, I mean. Top is going to be your time, and on the bottom, you can choose the metric you want to see, whether it's counting your distance of your intervals, counting the distance of your workout, seeing your pace per 100, seeing your splits at your turn, your real-time stroke rate, or the stroke count, and even distance per stroke, which is really important, and I'm going to get into that one a little bit later. So, time for that. So one of the things that we are working on is like how to utilize and like why is swimming different? Well, there's resistance. Water is 800 times more dense than air, And swimming is a very big feel-based sport. So when you look at kind of you want to improve that pace. You want to improve that pace per 100 and see your swim time come down. Swimming's all about finding the right combination of your stroke length and your stroke rate and holding that at specific speeds, which is velocity. So stroke rate length times stroke rate equals velocity. When these are working in harmony, we call that a sweet spot. It's kind of like when you're running and you're at this flow state and you feel like you could probably run forever. Or you're on the bike and you just feel good and everything's just flowing. You're at the optimal wattage and RPM. It's a sweet spot. Sweet spot also depends on your technique as well as the duration of the interval and how hard you're working. So the goggles are really helpful because they can now show you these metrics to help you find your sweet spot. Or really, you're probably having to do that on feel. I can probably find that myself, being a swimmer for like over 23 years. But not a swimmer background, it's very hard. I will never be able to find my sweet spot in running. I'll tell you that right now. That stuff to me is the hardest. I went on a 10K run at lunch today. Felt awful, as it always does. But I did kind of get into a groove at around a 740 per mile pace, and that felt like kind of a little bit effortless. So I was able to kind of find a semi-sweet spot for a specific pace today, but I had my watch to help guide me. So what are the key steps to putting these metrics into practice? Well, it's consistency. You got to swim if you want to get better. And you got to use the metrics and you got to see the metrics in order to understand how the relationship of these metrics are working together. Next is progression. Once you start to see consistency in, your stroke rate as it relates to your time and the length of your stroke, which is distance per stroke, then you need to look at how can you try and hold that and be consistent across different volumes of workouts, different distances of specific intervals, so like 100s to 200s to 400s, and then at different effort levels. So your easy warm-up pace is one thing versus like your targeted race pace and even like your sprint pace. So having this and understanding where to find these sweet spots at different paces and what those optimal stroke rates to times and distance per stroke will be. You can use distance per stroke or stroke length in two ways. Either look at the distance per stroke, which is a metric that is the length of your single arm stroke cycle, or you can look at it in terms of the number of strokes you take in a length. They're both the same thing. They're just measured differently and shown differently. And then evaluate. It's like kind of that, going back to grade school, you do tests frequently to understand how you are learning. Well, you have to evaluate the data, understand if you are putting things in the action or just swimming the same old way all the time. Next, I want to show you kind of an example of a swimmer that started using form for the very first time. And what kind of we often see is that this swimmer thought and kind of was like, I hold a consistent pretty much pace per 100, but when we looked and showed them their length over length data, it was much, much different. Okay, so what you're going to see is, as you can see, there's the splits here for every single 25. I'm just going to go back a little bit here. You can see like 24, 27, 25, 24, 27, 26, 29, 26, 26, 25, 29, 27, 23. That is super inconsistent pacing. And their stroke counts, are up and down, but you'll also see as we go over, their stroke rate is up and down. 30, 27, 28, 30, 26, 25, 25, 29, 30. That's what that is burning energy. And you may not win the race in your swim, but you sure could use a lot of excess energy that's going to burn your run. So the goggles they might make your pace per 100 better, but if you become more consistent by using them because of seeing the data, well, that's a huge win also, because if you go like, let's say an hour for your Ironman swim or an hour and 10, but you do it with 50% less energy, that's a big win. So that's really what the goggles kind of help highlight, is bring that awareness in real time, but also after the fact in the app. We group all this data automatically. When you look at the app, it's not like you have to manually input it. We know what you're doing, when you're doing it, what stroke type you're doing, and that's all auto calculated. The next one is a swimmer that has been using the goggles for quite some time. As you can see, this is a summary of the data. This showcases the breakdown of the workout. And again, this is auto calculated and auto done by our machine learning and pattern recognition. But when you look at kind of a breakdown of like this 200 here, you can see the consistency now. 17, first length might be always a little faster because of the initial inertia you have from a push-off, but also then each other length has, the turns incorporated. So those lengths actually take a little longer, but 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, and then 18. Last length's always a little faster. Some want to finish strong, but then it gets into the stroke rates, and you can see the consistency here in the stroke rates as well. Pretty much almost a 49 or 48 across the board. That's how the goggles can help you see that visualization. And that's what I really like to focus on when I swim, is looking at my splits at every single wall, because that's a true representation of my actual pace. Pace per 100, like I said, it's a great average number, but splits at your turn are very specific and can tell you a lot. All right, so one of the newest features, like I said, is our guided workouts. Ergomotor swimming, you can load your own workout. One of the things that we're working really closely on right now with Training Peaks is pulling that workout from Training Peaks and have it waiting for you in the goggles. We're actually going to be starting some real good beta testing on that next month, so really excited about that. And the workout builder, if you wanted to take your workout from Training Peaks, you could simply use the Form app and type it in very quickly and then execute and swim your workout via the goggles. Fantastic. It really does make swimming a lot more enjoyable and makes it fly by. And then, like I said, you can use the goggles in open water. You can connect out your third-party application so that the data is waiting for you when you finish your swim and save and sync that swim, whether it's Strava or Training Peaks. And lastly, in January, we had the awesome privilege to be nominated for the best swim product and won that at the first Global Triathlon Awards, which is really exciting. And before we get into questions, and talking a little bit more, this is general setup. I'll send out this to Colin so he can set it out. I'll send it out a PDF. But the goggles are $249 US. That includes your first full year membership. That's $180 value. And then in year 2, it's $15 a month. And that's a month-by-month membership fee. If you don't want to pay the $15 a month, you can still use the goggles for the rest of your life, get all the data recorded, see all the data in real time, push all the data out to third-party platforms. You just won't be able to access and use the premium features like guided workouts, workout builder, Training Peaks integration, and the new premium features that we have launching later this year. You can pause your membership, cancel it, pick it back up. Very flexible, similar to like Zwift. We're a swim platform for executing your swim efficiency. And as team members, you get 20% off, and these are your codes. I'm sure Colin will share these afterwards as well. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the group, and we can have a little conversation, answer any questions you might have. All right.
I guess I'll just jump in and kind of highlight some of the things I really like about him. So first off, I mean, he did a great job. Scott talked about the different advantages and things, but like, I know we all love our drill log mode in the Garmin's, but it's such a pain, obviously being sarcastic there, like it's pretty incredible to me how accurate they are, so that, for regular swimming, but also kicking drills, single arm drills, all that, it still captures it all, which is really cool. So eliminates the need to use the drill log there. And I agree with the workouts, building the workouts into there and using them, like it really does change the game. It just keeps you on point so much better. And I've been amazed with how much it keeps you on track with that. And like Scott said, not cutting workouts short and being tempted to do things like that. are a couple of the highlights, but all the different metrics and things and being able to customize that and being able to see what exactly you want to see, super cool. So I've been using them for a couple of years now, and really believe in the product. So hope people can think about giving them a try here.
Yeah, and like I said, we have a 2-year warranty, but we also have a 30-day money back guarantee, knowing that, you know, products aren't for everyone. You know, I've tested a couple of things and tried a couple things that I didn't, you know, just worked for me. I take them back, but there's no harm, no foul, because, you know, not every single product is made for every single person. But that's why we do have our, you know, money back guarantee for 30 days, as well as a 2-year warranty. Questions? I don't even have to be about form. It can be about swimming.
I have a question. Can you say a little bit something about the technology? Is there an accelerometer in there that's measuring your stroke, or?
Yeah, we have I'm in our office right now, and we have about, I would say, 70, 75 employees. 3/4 of those are all engineers, and they are amazing at what they do. So our goggles have an accelerometer, a magnetometer, and a gyroscope, and we use machine learning and AI to really make them smart, no pun intended. They are smart goggles, but it's insane like how everything is just done through automation, that you start your swim and they do everything else, from display, you know, your metrics while you swim, to start the rest timer when you're at the wall, and it does it automatically. When you push off again, it knows that you started through the inertia and the velocity propulsion that they detect. And they have trained the goggles using hundreds of algorithms so that they're looking for pattern recognition. That's why we can understand what types of strokes you're doing, because we've data mapped the goggles using those pattern recognitions. It's pretty insane, actually.
So I saw one of the metrics there was heart rate. Where can you have that as part of the heads-up display, and where are you getting the heart rate from?
Great question. So currently, the way we support heart rate is using the Polar OH1 or Polar Verity Sense, so about the size of a little puck or quarter. And you can pair those to the goggles using the app, and that needs to sit on in the box. When you order the goggles, you get a little cradle that you can thread onto your strap, and then that heart rate sensor will sit in the cradle attached to like sitting on your temple. Very good spot for capturing heart rate. Or you can just, what I do is actually just tuck it under my swim cap, and it sits right on there in the temple. But that Bluetooth signal is so close to each other so that you can see that heart rate in real time. The reason we don't do chest strap, well, not sure how everyone's knowledge is on Bluetooth connection, but Bluetooth and water don't like each other. So the further away the monitor is, and if there's water involved, the more the connection dies. So the chest strap's always submerged, and if it's always submerged, there's no way for it to talk to the goggles. So that's why we don't support chest straps. And watches, they're too infrequent in terms of eventually they're going to be far away. You can't see my arm right now, and the goggles would be on my head. It's going to be too far, and your hand would be submerged. The goggles would be out of there. So it's just it's about consistency.
And Reed just asked in the chat here, if the goggles fog up through a swim, does the display also get foggy?
So first thing is, all goggles fog, all sunglasses fog. It's a matter of temperature change. You know, we live in a world where we have different climates, so we're always going to experience fog. It's all like personal. Like, it depends. I've had fog but still been able to see the display. The best thing to do when you get fog is to first neutralize the temperature of the inside of the goggles and the goggles themselves. And that's usually the temperature change from your forehead to the goggles and then the water itself. So that's going to cause fog. Similar to if you've kind of gone from your air-conditioned car out to hot and humid, right away, glasses fog up. So the best thing to do is dunk the goggles in the pool or whatever water you're in, rinse them out, put them back on. And after your swims, the best thing to do is rinse your goggles, put them in the case. We have natural holes and drainage so that they will, let's get some light going in there. There's holes there, but it's hard to see. Anyways, the case is super important. It's going to help protect longevity, help keep all that anti-fog coating on. What you can do is after like a few months, if you do start to see more fog, it's how your goggles probably also need to be clean because there's probably built up, chlorine, or if you're swimming in the open water, dirt. So best thing to do is use a little lukewarm water, a little bit of dish soap with water in the goggles, and a Q-tip, just very gently rub it around and then rinse it again. That's going to help go a long way. And if you do want to add, like there are anti-fog like gels out there, you got to be very careful with those because you only need like ever so slightly a tiny bit. And again, use a Q-tip. The biggest things that we can do, the worst things we can do for our goggles is use our fingers. We have nails. I need to trim them, so they're going to scratch the crap out of your goggles and they're going to wear them down. I used to treat my goggles like crap. Like one, I didn't pay for them since the age of 15. So I just tossed them in my swim bag. They got moldy like crazy. That's another thing. Like our gaskets are FDA certified silicone, fancy term, but they're the same silicone you use on kitchen utensils, so they won't ever mold. But yeah, it's really like knowing the steps, and that's really a part of like form is we have to help educate on the right ways to take care of your product because goggles, a lot of goggles, they're cheap and they wear quickly because they got to make margins and money on those goggles. Ours are technology first, then goggles, so we have to make sure that we have the best parts, the highest standards, and then all the components like the case to help increase that longevity. Anyone got any races coming up?
I have just a couple of quick questions for you. I literally tried my form goggles for the first time last night, so this is super good timing for me. In terms of just from a usage point of view, with the pace, that's obviously going into the pace setting. So you need to be in, rather than just a straight swim, you need to be in the pace setting to see stroke rate, so on and so forth.
I will answer your question in a maybe different way. So when you get your goggles, you have to download the Form app, and everything can be done in the Form app. So we have your home screen where you can see your recent swims, but the last tab over here is called My Goggles. And from here, this is where you can customize everything. So we call our screens dashboards, and in that, there are 3 moments in time where you see information in our goggles. While you swim, when you turn. So when you turn, there's 2 to 3 seconds where you get essentially metrics that you want to see from the last length. And you can customize it and do that in any which way. So like if I open this, you can see all the different styles and metrics you can choose from. And those are just summaries. If I clicked open pace, all the different paces. And then times, which are all the different splits. Like we have so many metrics you can choose to see, but that's why the customization is so important because everyone's different. I'm a very simple person when it comes to my goggles. I like to see my stroke rate in real time when I swim because it's, like I said, it's RPM of swimming. And then I like to see my splits on my turns. And then a summary of like some things that when I touch the wall. But I keep it simple because it doesn't need to be complicated for understanding where your inefficiencies are by just having those simple 2 metrics. And then the data and the get really geeked out.
No, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So no one has any races coming. That's surprising.
I beg to differ, Scott. I definitely put some races on people's calendars here that I know of and I see in here. So I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. Shy audience. Late end of the day. We're all tired. Some of us ran a marathon on the weekend. Some of us struggle with running 10Ks at lunch.
Nothing, huh? Come on.
I got one. We got second week of June. It's Patriot. I think there's probably quite a few people doing Patriot.
Third week, yep.
Third week. So I guess, do the goggles presumably don't work in open water?
Oh, you weren't listening at all.
You
man.
weren't paying
I'm
attention,
sorry, I
Reed. Come
must have
on.
missed that.
You failed the quiz. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
They work in pool. So when you turn on the goggles, there's a lot of different menus you can choose from, similar to when you Garmin, whether you're like running, treadmill, like biking, everything. So there's pool swimming, and then once you select your pool swimming, you choose your pool size to make sure you're getting the accurate algorithms and data. And then there's open water with goggles only, and then open water supported with select watches, which are Garmin and Apple. So when you're using the goggles in open water with just the goggles, which I highly recommend because you get time and real-time stroke rate. Knowing that real-time stroke rate as it compares to your pool swimming is super, super valuable. You can also compare them to select Garmin and Apple. And there, since we don't have GPS built into the goggles, we pull the GPS data from the watch when you're open water. So all of a sudden, when like I'm going to go swim to point A and point B, it's like, well, how far is that? Like, I can't see my watch when I'm swimming. It's kind of like you're just like in this dark abyss, unless you're swimming in like Maui where you can actually see the water. And it's just like, what am I actually doing? So having that GPS data pulled from your watch is huge. So you can see your time, your pace, your distance, and your heart rate. The heart rate will be pretty variable, based on how you've set up your goggles. Like, I'm meaning that like right now, if I wore my goggles on my right eye, which I haven't set to, and wore my watch on my left wrist, I wouldn't be getting very accurate data from the watch because they wouldn't be talking to each other often enough. So they're far apart. So when you swim in open water, biggest recommendation, if you are going to use the data from the watch, put the display. So you can wear the display on either eye, you just flip the image. Put the display on the same side as your watch and breathe to that side. Because if I breathe, these guys are both out of the water and they're going to update and talk to each other. But if I have them on the other side, I breathe to the right, my watch is in the water, you're just going to see nothing because they're not talking to each other. Too far Bluetooth connection, and you got water. So it's fantastic, but you got to set it up the correct way if you want that kind of consistent data.
That is pretty slick. Okay, so if it's connecting when your wrist is above the water, I guess the salinity content of the water doesn't affect the signal quality. So like if you're swimming in salt water versus fresh.
No, it's really a matter of like your consistent breathing pattern. So if you're breathing bilaterally, that's going to be a longer time gap. But when I swim in open water, I tend to just choose a side and then sight every so often. So I just make sure the watch and the goggles are on the same side of my body, and then I really never get a drop in connection.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you. I'll get the quiz right next time, I swear.
Okay. I fail quizzes all the time. Ask me something about running, I would fail right away. I can bike and swim like no other because of the transfer of like the endurance engine, but running in my flexible ankles don't get along. All right. Well, I thought I'd get at least one swimming question. I'll spill the beans.
Anybody want to ask a former Olympian here? Any questions about that? Maybe.
First, you got to guess my stroke.
Well, hopefully, I think we had a decent amount of listeners to the podcast here. Hopefully, anyway. So, but let's see. Anybody know? Wow. This is odd, Scott. This is not the way this group normally is here. I promise.
Colin, I was gonna take a guess, but then it would have revealed that I didn't listen to the podcast episode, so I was just staying quiet.
Touche. All right. That's fair.
But since I didn't listen, sorry, I will take a guess. Is it rowing?
No, he was a swimmer, buddy.
Oh,
We
he
were
was a
asking
swimmer.
which stroke.
Which stroke? Okay, let's go with butterfly.
is usually one of the first things I got because of my frame. Got like the uber wide shoulders. But funny enough, I'm a 6'5" breaststroker. Yeah, did most odd person in the pack. Everyone I'm just towering over, and yeah, just weirdly enough, that was my stroke. I could throw down some good freestyle though too, sprinting.
No kidding. What was your fastest 50 or 100 breaststroking?
My 100 breaststroke long course is 59.8 seconds.
Oh my goodness. Well, if I could hit that just freestyle, we'd be in business here, Colin.
Yeah, seriously, right?
I could
Well,
hit
you
that
know,
freestyle
it's
right
funny. Scott, I actually thought of you. Elliot and I were swimming together last week, and we were doing some IMs. And during the breaststroke, I just felt like I wasn't even moving, and I was just like, I thought of you. I was like, how did he do this? I don't know. how he did that.
It's,
I'll jump in and ask a question here. I apologize. I'm admittedly out on a run and there's a lot of road noise, so I didn't want to unmute. But so how do you find your stroke changing between the pool and open water? Where do you fall on kind of like more the swinger style as opposed to more classic pool stroke when you're mixing between the two?
I find it's so that like I was mentioning about the stroke rate. I find when I'm in open water, I have a really long stroke, which is beneficial in terms of like I can like ride out on a single stroke, but it doesn't allow me to swim at the targeted pace probably want to be swimming at for whether I'm doing, you know, a sprint or Olympic or even a half iron. So I need to do more open water, probably more race preparation training at higher stroke rates over probably, you know, short distances, and then increase that to 50s and then increase that to hundreds. But it's really like, you know, I remember the first time like getting on my like road bike and like my coach telling me like, you know, start trying to train at like higher than 90 to know what it feels like out on the road. It was so hard for me, but I had to like train my body to know what that feels like. So similar to like that is like when I'm in open water, I'm just like swimming at such a low long stroke, but it allows me to hold that very easily based on my background. But if I was to increase my stroke rate, it would gas me right away. So I have to like train my body to adapt to the stroke rate that it should be at to get to the pace I want to be at for that targeted length to swim.
Do you find you can still swim like, you know, fast in the open water with your, obviously you're fast, but at that slower stroke rate, or do you think you need to speed up that stroke rate and become more efficient at it to reach another speed or whatever your goals are?
I think I need to train at a high stroke rate to meet the pace that I want to be at. And I specifically need to train it so that I get to a point where, like I said in the presentation, find that sweet spot where I've gotten to a point where I can hold that stroke rate at a lower effort level. If I was to try it like tomorrow, do a set of like 10 100s at a specific targeted stroke rate of higher, the first two I could do probably pretty easily. And then it would just my heart rate would just start being like through the roof because I'm not accustomed to doing it. So just like anything else, you got to train your body, but build up through progression. You can't just start there. You kind of have to like, I did it for a 25, celebrate that success. And then can you do it for 10-25? Then pull it back to, now let's start with a 50. Can I do it for 150? Then can I do it for 250s? And then so on. So it's like, it's all about progression and progressive overload. And that goes with whether you're running, you're biking, weightlifting. It's all the same thing. And it's just like, we can't expect ourselves to just be there. We have to train to get there. And that's why we have coaches as well.
Cool. Thank you. I was just curious your background, how you found that transition to more open water swimming.
I hate open water swimming. I'll just be first to say it.
Oh, wow.
I want to swim in a pool where I can turn and I can like do dolphin kicks underwater and like have that, you know, consistent like rhythm. Open water, I hate to say it, it's just like I just get so bored. I like training with like sets and intervals, and just how I grew up. So going in the open water, I'm like la di da. But the goggles actually, what they do for me in open water, like the metrics are great. They keep me engaged. Like honestly, that's the biggest thing. Like instead of just like swimming mindlessly, I find that I'm more in tune to what I'm doing versus just like going that super low stroke rate and long extended stroke and just essentially just cruising. They like force me to actually swim at a higher cadence and rate than if I didn't have them. And they also distract me from not thinking what's under.
That actually just made me think of a question. Is there a workout feature for open water swims, like an interval timer that you can set, something that's not necessarily based off of yards?
Not yet.
Okay.
I have a question. We joke in our household. I'm like the Lionel Sanders of the swim world, not like Gustav and Christian. I think my first triathlon, I was like second to last out of the water, and I don't like swimming. But I was just gonna say, like, my husband, my Sherpa's right here, and he's just like, that would be really good for you because you're really inconsistent. But I was just wondering, like, if the workout syncs to like Strava and then like Final Surge that we use, the data that like from the workout, something that Colin would be able to see, and like based my workouts on what he's been able to see.
Yeah, all the data there. So
For sure.
App, I'll just, since I'm in it right now, I'll just quickly show you guys.
And so, yeah, while he's pulling that up, so the data will be sent afterwards, the results basically of the workouts. At this point, they're working with Training Peaks to kind of have the integration the other way to send the workouts there. Hopefully Final Surge is next on that list here, and I bet they'd be willing when they're ready. But that stuff is not quite there yet. But you can, again, just really does only usually takes a couple minutes to just build the workout yourself. It's not too bad.
Yeah, and like the difference between like the builders of like 3 platforms we're talking about versus the builder we have in our app. Ours is like kind of built for swimming. It has all the variables you need to accurately input the probably workout structure that your coach prescribes. Because a lot of oftentimes with these builders, like whether it's Today's Plan, Final Surge, Training Peaks, a lot of the workout actually gets put in the text box versus the actual builder because those builders don't have functionality as ours, whereas like we have probably every single variable that goes into swimming.
It's cool. It's like even specifying which toys we're using, everything. It's really neat. I guess I'm going to take some credit for that, right? Since I helped with the beta program when they were building that out. It's well done.
Wouldn't be where we are today.
Any other questions? Yeah.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you having me on.
Hold on, Scott. So we're going to do a giveaway here live, though. How about we do that?
Let's do it.
All right. So who wants to win a pair of Form goggles?
I do. Yes, please.
All right. The trivia question is, don't be afraid to use Google if you have to.
Reed's going to lose, so,
What years did Scott compete in the Olympics?
2016.
What years?
Years.
I can't do everything, Janet.
Come on.
Like
2004 and 2012.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. John is
Chip. He actually goes by Chip. Yep. Chip. Hey, Chip. Looks like you are the best Googler on the phone right now here on the Zoom here.
No, I just remember things I hear.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. Cool.
Nice.
All right. Well, congratulations, Chip.
Well, I just bought a pair, so
that's true. You did just tell me that today, didn't you?
Somebody who wants to bid on a pair, I'm open to.
There we go. We'll
who's
figure
most
out. Sorry, say that again, Chip.
Colin, who's most in need of them?
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot now here, huh?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I heard both Steph and Reed kind of chime in here. Let's see here. Don't make me pick. I can't pick between. I love them both. I can't pick between the two.
I did fail the quiz, so I think they go to Steph.
The gentleman right there.
uh,
Who said that they were the poorest swimmer? They both complained of being poor swimmers.
and well, I don't think Steph's being fair. She's really improved over the last year here. She's getting right in the mix here. So,
I won't be
but
the back of the pack. I might be middle now.
hey, it's progress for sure. So, all right, Reed, we'll work
Well-
something else out to help you out. But if Chip, you're good with that, we'll send them to Steph.
No,
there.
just give them to Stephanie, and women come first. So she gets herself a new pair of goggles.
Awesome. Very cool. Awesome. Congratulations. That's great. And thanks, Chip.
And Reed.
You're welcome. Fantastic.
Very good.
But
All right,
put us
everybody.
at the top of the list for integrating with
Final Surge here. All right, Scott.
Yep.
Deal?
And
Right.
Scott, I disagree with you. I would much rather open water swim, but then again, once I started playing water polo, I never went back to swimming seriously. So
Yeah, we have a couple of those in the office too. I would say just like a glutton for punishment for structure and like, you know, having that like, you know, interval style workout. Whether funny enough, I actually like running on a treadmill quite a lot because I do structured training workouts on the treadmill, and I find it just makes running fly by for me.
Apparently, Courtney agrees.
Hate the treadmill.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all, Scott.
Also,
But-
when I first tried the bike trainer, I was like, okay, that's
I was about to
That's a
say
game
that.
changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like
I can't
remember.
run.
Yeah, it was.
I can't.
And sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I was just gonna say I can't just like get on my trainer and like open up Zwift, just go for those like virtual rides. That's to me is like the most like redundant, boring thing in the world. It has to do structure.
Got it. Makes sense. Cool. All right, everybody.
All right.
Well, thanks again, Scott. Really appreciate you jumping on here. Hope everybody found that helpful. And yeah, we'll try and get this recording visible for other people here. Yeah, weather's warming up here. Races are coming, even though we won't admit that we're doing any. And we'll we'll go from there.